You know I've been no fan of heroes, but even I can't deny the good that you've done. Work with me, Sam. Country needs Captain America.
The world is on the brink of war. It's my job to fix it. What if it's a trap? Stand by for proof of death. Somebody is pulling the strings on everything.
Captain America.
You don't even know what this is. You want me? Come and get me!
Tell me I don't make your old gear look brand new.
Who's saying that?
Everybody.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel dropped a brand new Captain America Brave New World trailer. There's a bunch of new footage, and there's a bunch of stuff that they're hiding in the trailer. I'll explain what they are hiding, because they really want you to see one thing while you're not actually looking at what's really going on. And you can't talk about Captain America without talking about Chris Evans coming back as an evil version of Captain America in Avengers 5 Doomsday. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. What I'll do is I'll go through the trailer here shot by shot and then explain what they've changed, because they edit the trailer in like a really weird way where they add lines of dialogue in parts of conversations that don't happen the way they happen in the actual movie, particularly at the beginning of the trailer here. Just starting at the beginning of the trailer here. So when he goes to the White House and he's talking to President Thunderbolt Ross, this is after he's won the election, he's become the new president of the United States. The whole reason why they're at the White House to begin with is because he's just done a mission as the new Captain America in this suit here with the new version of the Torres Falcon that we've seen. You see his suits throughout this trailer too. There's a couple of jokes in the trailer how he thinks he looks even better in his green Falcon suit than Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson did in his Falcon suit. Both of them have their own versions of Red Wing too, like you see Captain America using two of them when he's fighting Red Hulk later in the other trailers. They've just gone on a mission to steal a sample of adamantium from a Japanese dig site on that dead celestial in the Indian Ocean, Tiamat.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you adamantium.
So they're finally addressing the end of the Eternals movie in this movie with the idea that adamantium in the MCU grows naturally, or just occurs naturally, on the Celestial here. Once the world discovered that, it's this arms race from all the different nations trying to claim the resources for themselves because it's such a potential big power source. In the briefing at the White House here, before things go sideways, he talks about how adamantium belongs to quote-unquote everyone around the world. Really, he's talking about the United States. That's when everything goes sideways, and the leader basically seems like he tried to program Isaiah Bradley into trying to kill Thunderbolt Ross when he's actually dosed him with the Hulk serum, turning him into Red Hulk. Like the leader is trying to push him to become Red Hulk, and for things to go completely sideways. But the way they edited it in the trailer here, when he shows up into the room here talking to President Thunderbolt Ross, he says, "I need you on my side. I need a Captain America," basically. Thunderbolt Ross wants Sam Wilson's Captain America to be at his beck and call, basically, do what he tells him to do. One of the big conflicts of the movie, though, is that he's asking him to do a bunch of stuff that Sam Wilson does not feel comfortable doing, like really shady type of stuff. Thus leads them to the conflict later in the movie when you actually see him fighting Red Hulk. Part of the idea is that Hulk isn't meant to be the main villain of the film. He's actually trying to do the Black Widow thing of talking him back down, sun's getting real low, so that he doesn't wind up destroying the entire United States in his rage. Really, the leader is meant to be the actual main villain of the movie. But during this opening scene, they cut out a whole bunch of scenes of dialogue where Thunderbolt Ross is basically asking Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson to help him put together a brand new Avengers team.
Which is why I want you, Captain America, to help me rebuild the Avengers.
Because even though he had all those problems with the Avengers during Captain America Civil War, that's what all the dialogue here about not getting along with heroes. Like, I've had my problems with heroes in the past, but they serve their purpose. And Sam Wilson doesn't feel comfortable putting together an Avengers team that's at the beck and call of President Thunderbolt Ross. Like, what if you ask us to do something that we don't feel comfortable doing? It'll lead to another Captain America Civil War situation where we wind up fighting each other.
Hell, I wouldn't even be here without the Avengers. The country needs this.
And when we disagree on how to manage a situation.
Notice the way the music plays during that clip that they cut out, like it's very, very ominous. So obviously they want to imply that Sam Wilson does not put together a new Avengers team yet. But this whole movie is meant to tease that idea, like what is the next version of the Avengers going to look like? This also gets into what's happening during the Thunderbolts movie. I've talked about this in previous videos too, where Val basically steals the thunder, like making all the puns possible, Thunderbolts puns, to put together her own Avengers team. Remember, she leads the CIA. She's really more on the side of Thunderbolt Ross here, the government just in general, doing a lot of shady things, taking the Norman Osborn role during the Dark Avengers storyline after Secret Invasion, putting together their own Avengers team. That's why they bought the Avengers Tower, like Val bought the Avengers Tower and turned it into her new Avengers Tower.
Rebranded.
Most of the entire Thunderbolts trailer is aping moments from the original Avengers trailer. That's why there's all the talk of assemble, like be careful who you assemble in that trailer. The funnier thing, though, is that it's actually Bucky who helps put that team together. So you have Sam Wilson, who's trying to put together his new Avengers team, and Bucky, who's also kind of not really thinking about it that way, but also kind of putting together his own Dark Avengers team, too, which also calls itself the New Avengers. Like, that's part of the joke, too, is that Val just calls them the New Avengers. The way that Nate Moore, the main producer on Captain America Brave New World, talked about this, he's sort of Kevin Feige's second-in-command lieutenant, like one of the biggest producers at Marvel, who works on like the biggest films, like the Black Panther films. In his own words, he said, "I think the Avengers teams are best when they're led by a Captain America." And this movie gives us a little bit of space to talk about where are the Avengers now, what does it mean to have the Avengers, and is Sam the right guy to lead them? So it sounds like a lot of Captain America Brave New World will be him reckoning with the idea of whether or not he's actually worthy to put together an Avengers team to even begin with. And I think we're all kind of expecting the post-credit scene to sort of tease that, where they actually do start the work of putting together that new Avengers team with the surviving Avengers who are still around after Avengers Endgame, and like a couple of new heroes too. My whole expectation with the good new Avengers, not talking about the Dark Avengers, but like the actual new Avengers team, is that they start with a smaller roster. Remember, the original Avengers team in that first movie were only 6 characters. Then it eventually, by the end of Endgame, spun up to like a whole bunch of different characters calling themselves Avengers. So I think when they're putting together the new team, they'll go back to a much smaller team first, and then eventually slowly spin up to bigger teams, cycling out the roster movie to movie every time the Avengers shows up in future movies down the road. Mostly what's going to be happening after Secret Wars, though, is we're talking about putting a bunch of X-Men inside the MCU, more X-Men-based films. Eventually, they'll build to like an X-Men versus Avengers film. That's when you'll start to see more cycling of the Avengers roster. And the Avengers, just in general, will just become a much smaller group as they focus more on the mutant-based teams, like the X-Men teams. Which I think is totally fine. Like, we've had so much Avengers, and there are like so many new characters that I think we're really just waiting to see a lot of the X-Men, Fantastic Four stuff, like the really new stuff that you haven't seen a ton of inside the MCU yet. Deadpool and Wolverine was like just a taste of some of those characters. Notice all the trailers don't show you a whole ton of Tiamat, that dead celestial in the Indian Ocean. I think for a couple reasons. One, because they're trying to hide a little bit of it during the actual movie itself. Like, they want to save a lot of it for the actual movie. But also, I think they want this movie to feel like the grounded Winter Soldier type of thriller storyline, like a mystery thriller. And it's kind of hard to do that with like really crazy, huge, giant celestials, like big cosmic stuff. So they want the movie to feel a little more grounded. So they're trying to keep the celestial stuff kind of in the background. Like, oh yeah, that's happening over here a little bit, but it's a much smaller part of the movie. In the trailer, when he says the world is on the brink of war, notice the missile has a repulsor on the back of it. So that makes me wonder if somebody's either copied Stark technology or Stark Industries is supplying some of the militaries around the world. There's a couple different ways to explain how other countries can get repulsor technology. Usually it involves a form of espionage at some point. The actual war that's heating up is over the resources on this dead celestial Tiamat, but also you have the leader character who's basically trying to set off a World War Hulk's type of storyline with the Hulk serum. That's why he's turning Thunderbolt Ross into a version of Red Hulk. Supposedly, he's going to be threatening to do that around the world, to like give the Hulk serum to other countries too, so you have other countries with their own version of the Hulk, and it turns into a World War Hulk situation. There have been some rumors that Amadeus Cho is going to be referenced at some point during this. He might wind up getting the serum at some point at the very end of the movie, or they'll tease that. But I think the idea is that they want this to spin up into a World War Hulk storyline in future movies. But this movie itself is not meant to be World War Hulk. You can't really do that without Bruce Banner Hulk being like a really big part of the story, and I think he might be referenced during this, but I don't know how big of a character he's supposed to be in this actual movie, just because they're either hiding him from the trailers or he's not going to be in this movie. And it would be kind of weird for them to do so much Hulk stuff from the Incredible Hulk movie and not have Bruce Banner in this movie at all in any way. So he's got to have some sort of cameo scene somewhere in this film. When you see him fighting the Serpent Society here, and then Torres in the car saying, "What if this is a trap?" you have the idea that the leader seems like he's playing the Serpent Society against the government, and Sam Wilson and everybody else against each other. So the leader himself is the one that's pulling the strings behind the board, but it's not totally clear why he's doing this, like what he's actually pissed off about that's causing him to do all these things. The only thing I've heard Tim Blake Nelson talk about when he's talking about his leader storyline is that he's pissed off and feels like the government, the US government, owes him something and he's going to get it however he can get it. But that doesn't really mean that much. My assumption is that after the events of the Incredible Hulk movie, when they took him into custody, he just continued to work for the US government, doing all kinds of really shady research and things. And maybe at some point over those years since the events of Incredible Hulk, the government did him dirty and he's pissed off about that. But all the different moments in the trailer here where like Thunderbolt Ross is pissed off, there's variables out there that I can't control and I don't want a situation that I can't control. Then all the other characters worried about some X Factor, then you have Sidewinder played by Giancarlo Esposito leading the Serpent Society, and they all want you to wonder who's actually the villain of this. Really, it's the leader, it's the character that you're not really seeing that much of in the trailer. This scene of the overhead crowd shot of the Uncle Sam hat also seems like the leader hiding himself, like he's hiding his giant head underneath the Uncle Sam hat. Couple points of interest here. The other president that Thunderbolt Ross is talking to here is the Japanese president, the people that they basically steal the adamantium from before the movie picks up, or like the very beginning of the movie. You actually might recognize the actor from the Shogun series recently. Absolutely banger of a series. There are a lot of different scenes of both Torres and Sam Wilson inside this creepy looking lab. This is meant to be the leader's lab, like this medical looking facility. It seems like this is where he's been doing a lot of his work on the Hulk serum and also manipulating people like Isaiah Brad, like programming them Winter Soldier style. My expectation for the movie is that by the end they'll figure out what the leader is doing, capture him, throw him in the wrap like Baron Zemo. Maybe he's going to be chilling out with Baron Zemo for a while. Then at some point at the very end, they'll tease him actually starting to try to put together a new Avengers team, maybe some sort of Thunderbolts related post-credit scene. And I don't think the movie is meant to invoke a whole lot of multiverse stuff, but there also might be some sort of teaser about the evil version of Captain America also showing up to kick everyone's butt. I did a separate video about this after they announced it, but Chris Evans is basically signing a deal to come back with Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom in Avengers 5 Doomsday. Basically, I think the idea is that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is going to show up in the main MCU leading an evil Avengers team that's just going to run roughshod over all the new Avengers inside the main MCU, because we know he's going to be turning into a version of God Emperor Doom, heading into Secret Wars and ruling over a version of Battleworld. It won't be exactly like the comics, but similar to the comic book storyline. So it just sounds like whoever's going to be on his evil Avengers team is just going to kick the absolute crap out of all the heroes in the main 616 universe. So we will probably see a version of Chris Evans fighting Anthony Mackie's Captain America, like Captain America versus Captain America. We don't know exactly which character Chris Evans is playing, but he'll just be a more evil version or darker version of Captain America. There's been talk about him being a version of Nomad from the comics or Hydra Captain America. There's like a number of different evil versions of Captain America or darker versions of Captain America that he could be, because Nomad technically is not an evil Captain America. That was the name in the Captain America comics that Steve Rogers used after he stopped being Captain America when he started to hate the government. But if there's any other Easter eggs or references that you spotted during the footage here that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. And because the movie's coming out in February, we'll probably get a couple more clips and trailers before it comes out, so hopefully they'll show us a little bit more about what's actually going on with the leader character. We also might be getting that new Superman trailer late next week too. We'll see. James Gunn might surprise people and just drop it online later next week. Whenever they release it, of course I will do videos about it. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up, a whole bunch of trailers that just released, so I'll try to do videos for everything as soon as possible. I just did a review of the Kraven movie. You can click here to learn what's going on with that, and click here for my Invincible Season 3 trailer video, which is going to be crazy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.